The next step will be to drill the hole through the long way of the wood. Then that'll be where the brass tubes will be fitted in. First thing I do is I'll set the depth on my drill press so that I'm not drilling into the holder here. Then I can only go down a certain way. I put a little block of wood underneath so that as the drill exits out the bottom, it doesn't splinter the hole, and also it doesn't hit into the metal of the holder here. There's a lot of different methods of holding it. Some people just hold it, the blank, in a pair of pliers, and they have good success doing that. Since I had this already, I figured I might as well use it. Then all you do is you line up the drill bit with approximately the center of the blank. Some folks mark it all out and get it exactly in the center. It doesn't really matter as long as you leave yourself enough wood on all sides to turn it down on a lathe. So as close as you can get it is fine. Then the next step would be just to turn the drill press on and drill the hole. I drill a bit and then I retract to clear the chips out of there. If you don't do that, the chips could build up and you could split the wood. You always want to start your hole from the edge that you marked, where the two pieces will go together. That way you'll always get a clean hole there, and if the thing might drift or chip out a little bit on the bottom, it won't hurt your joint, because this is where your two pieces of the pen will go together, and you want that as clean as possible. And the next step will be to prepare the tube to be glued inside the blank, the wooden blank. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to roughen up the surface of the brass tube so that the glue has something to grab onto. Now what I do is I put it in a little handheld electric drill. You don't want to tighten it down too much because you don't want to dent the tube, just hand tight. And I take a piece of sandpaper and I put it on there, turn the drill on, and as you can see, that just roughens up the surface. There also is like a lacquer coating on these to prevent them from corroding, and that helps to get some of that off too. Now the next thing we do is to plug the ends of the tube so that the glue doesn't get inside the tube. It's not absolutely necessary, but it makes it a lot easier than trying to scrape the glue out of the inside of that tube after it's put together. Like a cookie cutter, put your tube on the wax, push it down through, and it fills the tube. We'll have to clean the sanding dust and maybe a little bit of wax residue off of the edges of there. And to do that, I wet a paper towel with some denatured alcohol and then wipe it down. Okay, so we're all prepared to do the actual gluing. I use a Gorilla Glue or any polyurethane glue for this process. You can use epoxy, and some people even use the instant glues, the crazy glues. I found this just for me works the best, and I've never had a failure with it, so I'm just sticking to what I know works good. And to use the polyurethane glue, they recommend wetting one of the surfaces. So I take a Q-tip, this is just some water in my jar here, and then I just wet the inside of the tube. You don't have to soak it or anything, just get it damp. And then these are fairly good sized tubes. Some of the tubes are smaller, some are even bigger than this. But I'll put 3 very small strips of glue along the edge of the tube. Now when you insert it, you kind of twist it around like that to distribute the glue and then pull it in and out. And I go about halfway through on the one side, and then I take a little stick and I wipe the glue back down to the end because it tends to ooze up on the front. And then I'll insert it from the other side, rotate it around, try to get it distributed evenly as you can on the inside of the tube. And then I'll pull it out, scrape the glue down one more time. And put it in the first side. And this really doesn't matter which side to start with. Twist it around till you get to where you're going to hit your fingers. And then take my little stick and slowly push it down. Slowly, because you want to be sure to get that last little portion coated until it's flush. Then I scrape off the excess. Wipe it on a paper towel I keep handy here. Scrape off the excess on the other side. And then push the tube down maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so below the surface. And you see you'll end up with about the same amount on the other side. And then you can put that on the side to start to dry. With the polyurethane glue, it'll start to foam up as it reacts with the moisture in there, and that foam will fill up any loose spots or voids that are inside the tube. The excess will start to ooze out the ends, and you want to keep your eye on it while it's doing that because it could tend to shift the tube in and out, and you want to make sure that it's below the surface of the wood. So we'll keep our eye on it for a while, and if it starts to ooze out, we can just push it back in. Probably up to about the first half hour of drying time, it stays pliable enough that you can manipulate it if you need to. The polyurethane glue needs like an overnight drying time to fully cure. You could work it after about 4 hours, but I like to leave it sit overnight to be sure it's good and cured. If you're using epoxy, you can probably work with it after an hour's time, and if you use the CA or the instant glue, you can work with it probably after a half hour or so, or even less. That sets up pretty quickly.